Meanwhile, the new season of The Reluctant Traveler is out, and the show features some pretty big cameos. Most notable, of course, is Prince William, who gave Eugene Levy a tour of Windsor Castle.
You know, life is sent to test us as well, and it definitely can be challenging at times. I'm so proud of my wife and my father for how they've handled all of last year. My children have managed brilliantly as well.
Breaking news tonight from Windsor. A thunderclap inside the palace walls. Prince William has spoken, and his words could alter the monarchy forever. In a rare on-camera conversation, the heir to the throne declared, "I am not afraid of change." To some, it sounded like a gentle observation. To those who know the machinery of the crown, it was a steel-edged warning that traditions, rituals, and even long-standing figures inside the royal household will not escape scrutiny. The exchange took place not in a formal studio, but on Apple TV's series The Reluctant Traveler, hosted by Canadian actor Eugene Levy. The setting was Windsor Castle and its grounds. The tone was light, yet what William revealed was anything but trivial. He spoke of his family, of his determination to shield his children from the mistakes of the past, and of his desire to keep their home life stable. But behind the warmth, there was a sharper message. Insiders present at the filming claim that once the cameras stopped, William leaned closer to his team and made a remark that has since echoed through palace corridors. Continuity has its value, but accountability is non-negotiable. That single phrase, according to those who heard it, may mark the beginning of a new royal era. For decades, the motto was, "Never complain, never explain." Tonight, the heir to the throne has replaced it with a new creed: reveal selectively, control completely. And in doing so, he has drawn an invisible line, one that cuts across family loyalties, media expectations, and the very design of monarchy itself. Let us take a step back. The interview was framed as light entertainment. William walked with Levy through Windsor, shared a pint at the local pub, and reminisced about the Queen. He spoke movingly of Catherine, praising her courage through illness, and expressed pride in his father, King Charles, during what he called the most brutal year of his life. Viewers saw a husband, a father, a son. But observers saw something more, a man preparing to rule, carefully shaping a global narrative. Experts who watched the episode highlight 2 points. First, William's emphasis on family is not simply personal, it is strategic. He is contrasting his parenting with the long absences of the Queen in her early reign, and with the public exposure he and Harry endured as children. He wants his children to have what he never had, one royal commentator explained. Second, his tone of resilience, tempered with vulnerability, signals a recalibration. The monarchy is no longer just a spectacle of pageantry. It must be a working institution, fit for purpose in the 21st century. And yet, the timing raises questions. Why now? Why on Apple TV, not in a sit-down with a traditional journalist? Analysts say it is deliberate. By choosing light entertainment, William avoids the traps of adversarial interviews, the kind that destroyed Prince Andrew's reputation. He takes ownership of the narrative, delivering candor without losing control. "This is not an interview," one insider said. "It is brand architecture, and William is the architect." The implications are profound. If William truly intends to modernize the monarchy, the ripple effects will touch every corner of royal life. Rituals long defended by Queen Camilla may be pared back. Expectations of access by the press, and by Harry and Meghan's camp in California, may be firmly denied. Even the place of disgraced figures like Andrew and Sarah Ferguson could be recalculated under stricter ethical codes. For the moment, what matters is the tone. William's words carried not the evasiveness of caution, but the clarity of resolve. He invoked his late grandmother with tenderness. He recalled how she hosted him for tea when he fled Eton, and how Windsor felt like her soul. But even as he spoke of tradition, he underlined change. Do we still need this? Is it still relevant? Is it still fit for purpose? He asked. Experts agree. These are not casual questions, they are signals of reform. Observers point to the contrast with his brother. Harry continues to frame palace life as a web of conspiracies, feeding media cycles with grievances and accusations. William, by contrast, is tightening control, offering glimpses of vulnerability only on his own terms. As one palace aide put it bluntly, Harry trades privacy for content. William trades content for legitimacy. For Camilla, this shift may be deeply uncomfortable. Her influence lies in pageantry, ritual, and the traditional networks of courtiers. For Meghan, the implication is harsher still. William's family media code is designed precisely to prevent the kind of commodification of children's lives that California thrives on. And for Andrew and Fergie, still entangled in the shadow of Epstein, William's stance spells exclusion, unless they accept permanent distance from the royal stage. So tonight, from a conversation over tea and ale, a revelation emerges. The monarchy is at the edge of reform. William has drawn the blueprint. Family first, accountability always, tradition when useful, change when necessary. Continuity remains, but never again without question. This is not the end of the story. It is the opening act of a drama that will test loyalties, strip away illusions, and decide who stands at the next coronation. Thank you for joining us tonight. Stay with us, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. What traditions should stay, and what must change? Because as William himself made clear, this is only the beginning, and the monarchy, as we know it, will never be the same again. If William's words in Windsor sounded like a promise of reform, the events surrounding a brief tea with King Charles and Prince Harry showed just how fragile the royal bond remains. 12 minutes. That is the length of time insiders say the meeting between father and son lasted. 12 minutes that have now spiraled into weeks of recriminations, speculation, and headlines. It began quietly. Harry flew into London, hoping, according to his camp, for a moment of connection. The king, facing treatment and a full schedule, slotted in a short audience. To palace staff, it was a courtesy. To Harry, it became something else entirely. Proof, he suggested, that he was being pushed aside by what he called the men in grey suits. The phrase is not new. It was used by his mother, Diana, at her most vulnerable, those shadowy courtiers blamed for controlling her every move. Harry has revived the language, painting himself once more as the victim of faceless operators who, he insists, are obstructing reconciliation. In his telling, the brief cup of tea was not a sign of goodwill but evidence of a conspiracy. But in the corridors of Buckingham Palace, the mood is very different. Officials, according to multiple sources, were left frustrated. They had facilitated the meeting, they had urged the king to give Harry a window, and then, almost instantly, that gesture was leaked, spun, and weaponized. Every time there is contact, one insider told us, it turns into a press cycle, it's exhausting, and it hardens resolve. For William, watching from Windsor, the lesson was clear. The heir has drawn a firm line. No leaks, no off-record briefings. No one, as one aide phrased it, will turn family encounters into streaming content. That statement, though not delivered publicly, reverberated as a direct contrast to Harry and Meghan's media strategy. Observers say the juxtaposition could not be sharper. William presents vulnerability, but only on carefully chosen platforms he controls. Harry reacts publicly to every perceived slight, fueling an endless cycle of complaint. One media analyst summed it up simply, William plays chess, Harry plays checkers. The consequences are now visible. In California, Harry's allies brief against palace courtiers. In London, courtiers brief quietly that reconciliation becomes harder each time. Between the two, the king is caught. 76 years old, battling a serious condition and still learning the burdens of monarchy, Charles is said to be torn. He is a father, one longtime family friend explained. No matter what is said, he will not close the door completely. But each leak, each accusation, makes it harder for him to open it wider. And yet, the optics matter. Public opinion in Britain has cooled towards the Sussexes. Polls showed dwindling sympathy, particularly after Harry's memoir painted his brother as cold and his stepmother as calculating. Against that backdrop, the 12-minute tea became symbolic. Was it a kindness or a dismissal? Was it a chance for healing or just another wound? Insiders suggest the truth is more mundane. The king was, quite literally, out of time. He had other meetings, other duties. A gift was exchanged, reportedly a photograph of the grandchildren. A birthday present was acknowledged. And then the audience was over. What might have passed as a private gesture became public theatre once Harry's circle intervened. The palace, for its part, has refused to respond in detail. No denials, no clarifications. Silence, and perhaps deliberate silence. Analysts note this reflects William's influence, the selective reveal doctrine. Better to say nothing, let the noise burn out, than to feed the fire. But there is another dimension. For historians of the monarchy, the comparison is striking. In 1953, Queen Elizabeth embarked on a 6-month Commonwealth tour, leaving Charles and Anne behind without question. At the time, it was normal. Today, even a half-hour delay in a royal school run would invite criticism. William's determination to be present for his children, contrasting sharply with his father's childhood, is no accident. It is a statement that the crown must adapt. That context casts Harry's frustrations in a different light. Where he sees rejection, William sees proof that the monarchy cannot bend to every demand of kin. Where Harry wants validation, William insists on boundaries. The collision is not only personal, it is philosophical. What is family? What is institution? And where do the two overlap? One palace advisor described it bluntly: if every act of kindness becomes a press release, kindness itself becomes impossible. That, in the eyes of Windsor, is the central problem. Meanwhile, commentators in the press frame the episode as yet another example of divergence. Harry believes in perpetual grievance, one columnist observed. William believes in controlled resilience. That contrast is increasingly shaping public opinion. What cannot be denied is the shadow of Diana. Her words about conspiracies still haunt both sons. For Harry, they are a rallying cry. For William, they are a warning never to lose grip of reality. In the years since her death, one son has chosen to repeat the language of paranoia. The other has chosen to channel memory into reform. And so the story of a brief tea becomes the story of the monarchy itself. Fragile bonds, colliding narratives, and a public forced to choose which prince they believe. The meeting may have lasted 12 minutes. The consequences will last much longer. From Windsor to California, from Clarence House to Montecito, the gulf is widening. One brother tightening control, the other broadcasting grievance. One father caught between them, torn by duty and affection, and behind it all, the slow drumbeat of reform that will not wait, even for family peace. Because in the new Windsor order, reconciliation is not guaranteed, but change, that, William has promised, is inevitable. If the brief tea with the king exposed the fault lines of family trust, William's own words at Windsor revealed something far more consequential, a blueprint for the monarchy itself, a phrase delivered with calm assurance, "I am not afraid of change," is now being read as a manifesto. For centuries, the crown has thrived on continuity. The robes, the rituals, the grand displays of pageantry, these have been the monarchy's armor against uncertainty. But William, insiders say, is determined to strip that armor back, piece by piece, until only what is fit for purpose remains. Tradition matters, he explained in the Apple TV program. But we must always ask, do we still need this? Does it serve? Does it work for people today? Behind those carefully measured words lies a sharper reality. Sources close to Kensington Palace describe what they call the change agenda, an informal but developing framework for reform. 3 pillars stand at its core. The first, streamlining ceremony. The second, repurposing royal estates, particularly the Duchy of Cornwall, towards social housing. The third, enforcing strict media boundaries for the next generation, his children. Taken together, these pillars amount to a quiet revolution, and already they are provoking unease inside the family. The first pillar, ceremony, strikes directly at the domain of Queen Camilla. Her influence is rooted in ritual, processions, robes, regalia. She has defended the grandeur of the monarchy as a symbol of its legitimacy. But William, according to those briefed on his thinking, believes overindulgence risks irrelevance. Less velvet, more value, one aide summarized bluntly. That phrase, delivered in private, has since become shorthand for the looming confrontation between heir and stepmother. The second pillar, housing, looks outward. William has already moved the Duchy of Cornwall toward development projects, including affordable housing. Analysts note this is not a symbolic gesture, it is policy. By linking the monarchy's land directly to social outcomes, William is repositioning the crown not as a relic of privilege, but as an instrument of public benefit. It is radical in its quiet way, one historian observed. For the first time in modern memory, a royal estate is being treated like a civic resource, not just a personal fortune. The third pillar, family media code, is perhaps the most personal. William has vowed that George, Charlotte, and Louis will not endure the relentless exposure he and Harry once suffered. This means sharp restrictions on access, limited appearances, and no exploitation of childhood moments for branding. Appear by purpose, not by drama, is how one Kensington official described it. The implication for Harry and Meghan is unmistakable. Their commercial use of family narratives in California will find no parallel in Windsor. Reactions among experts are divided. Some see bold leadership, others caution against overreach. Change is not what the monarchy is designed to do, one constitutional scholar warned. Its essence is continuity. Too much innovation, and it risks losing the mystique that sustains it. But others counter that mystique alone will not carry the institution through the 21st century. William understands that legitimacy now requires utility, argued a political analyst. A crown that serves is a crown that survives. Inside the palace, the agenda is already creating friction. Camilla's camp, according to sources, fears the dilution of royal theatre. Supporters of Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, clinging to hopes of rehabilitation, see no place for them in a monarchy that enforces accountability. Even among courtiers, the phrase fit for purpose has become a dividing line. Some welcome it, others mutter that it smacks of corporate jargon, not kingship. Yet William appears undeterred. His steel was visible in his remarks about his late mother. He spoke warmly of Diana's care, but he also signalled that her turbulent relationship with the media remains a warning. Where Diana was consumed by the spotlight, William will master it. Where Harry inherits her paranoia, William inherits her resolve. The stakes extend beyond Britain. Analysts note that the Apple TV interview was designed for a global audience. With Earthshot heading to Brazil, with Windsor repositioned as the family's permanent base, the message is clear. The future monarch wants not only to reform the crown at home, but to project a modernized version abroad. It is monarchy as soft power, said one foreign policy expert. Tradition plus reform, continuity plus utility, it is a package designed to keep Britain visible in a changing world. The comparison with his father is inevitable. Charles has long championed causes, from the environment to architecture, but was accused of meddling. William, by contrast, frames reform as modernization, not interference. He will not be an activist king, one biographer remarked, but he will be a reformer king. That distinction matters. It suggests a monarchy that retains its symbolism but discards excess. One that wears the robes when necessary, but not always. One that builds houses, not just opens them. And one that shields children from spectacle, rather than using them to sustain it. For Camilla, for Meghan, even for Andrew and Fergie, this vision is a warning. The days of indulgence, drama, and spectacle may be numbered. For William, the crown's survival depends not on how much gold it wears, but on how much good it does. And so, the change agenda moves quietly forward. It is not announced, it is not published. But in every speech, every appearance, every choice of platform, the pattern becomes clearer. The monarchy, in William's hands, will be smaller, sharper, and less forgiving of those who trade on its name without purpose. This is reform by design, and its first tests are already emerging. From Andrew's scandals to Camilla's pageantry, from Harry's accusations to the public's expectations, the heir has declared he is not afraid of change. The question now is who, within his own family, fears it most. If William's change agenda is about accountability, then the fate of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson has become its first real test. Their presence, unwanted, unresolved, hovers over the monarchy like a stubborn shadow. And now, after fresh revelations linking Fergie to the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein, the pressure to act is stronger than ever. Reports suggest the Yorks may once again find themselves excluded from the royal family's Christmas at Sandringham. Officially, the king cannot uninvite his own brother, but sources say it has been made clear, both privately and through the press, that it would be helpful if Andrew stayed away. One palace aide described the approach bluntly. He is family, but not front of house. That is the compromise. This careful phrasing reflects the difficulty of the situation. Andrew remains a royal prince, the late Queen's son, the king's brother. But he is also the man whose disastrous television interview destroyed what remained of his public role, whose friendship with Epstein continues to stain the family's reputation, and whose future appears incompatible with William's vision of accountability. Sarah Ferguson's troubles compound the dilemma. Once welcomed cautiously back into the fringes of royal life, particularly during the Queen's later years, she has now lost patronages and faces the possibility of being stripped of her honorary freedom of the City of York. Friends insist she was intimidated by Epstein, that her emails to him were attempts at protection. But sympathy is waning. Patience is wearing thin, one insider admitted. The goodwill extended to her is being tested to the limit. For William, the York question is more than a family embarrassment. It is a proving ground. His agenda of reform cannot survive if the monarchy continues to harbour figures tainted by scandal. Arm's length and audit, as one Kensington source put it, has become the guiding principle. Acknowledge the relationship, but impose strict distance from the public stage. Analysts note that this approach reflects a generational shift. Elizabeth II believed in sheltering her family members, however flawed, from complete exile. William believes in protecting the institution first. His grandmother placed family above image, one historian explained. William places legitimacy above family. That is the difference. The risk is obvious. Andrew reportedly resents his exclusion. Friends say he still harbours hopes of a return to public life. Fergie continues to seek relevance, speaking publicly, publishing books, and attending events. But every appearance draws scrutiny. Every headline risks overshadowing the monarchy's attempts at renewal. For courtiers, the equation is simple. Keep the Yorks visible, and the change agenda loses credibility. Push them too far, and the monarchy looks heartless, divided against itself. It is, as one royal advisor admitted, a balancing act on a knife's edge. Experts outside the palace frame it as a moral test. If William is serious about reform, he must show that scandal has consequences, argued one commentator. The monarchy cannot call for accountability in public while shielding its own in private. That contradiction is unsustainable, The comparison with Harry and Meghan is unavoidable. Both couples, Sussexes and Yorks, have become cautionary tales. For the Sussexes, the charge is commercial exploitation of royal status. For the Yorks, it is association with disrepute. In both cases, William's stance is the same: distance, control, and boundaries. The lesson is clear: personal freedom may be tolerated, but reputational risk will not. And yet, the human element remains. King Charles is described as deeply torn. He is both monarch and brother, both head of state and head of family. Friends suggest he would prefer reconciliation, at least in private. But William, increasingly influential in shaping palace policy, insists that appearances matter. The public, he believes, will not forgive indulgence. Observers point to a subtle but significant development. During the Queen's lifetime, Andrew was occasionally allowed to appear at family events, shielded by her presence. Now, under Charles and William, those appearances have dwindled. The shift is not announced. It is enacted silently, by omission. The wider family feels the impact. Beatrice and Eugenie, Andrew's daughters, have long been regarded as potential assets, capable, willing, and popular with some audiences. But their association with their parents' scandals has limited their roles. They are collateral damage, one analyst noted. In a slimmed-down monarchy, there is no room for complication. The question, then, is not simply about Andrew or Fergie. It is about whether the monarchy can draw a moral line and hold it. In a world of constant scrutiny, blurred boundaries are no longer survivable. This reality was underscored by a striking moment reported from inside Windsor. According to one witness, William, in a private conversation about the Yorks, remarked, "A crown that excuses everything will stand for nothing." It was not recorded, not broadcast, but those who heard it believe it captures his philosophy. That philosophy leaves little space for indulgence. For Andrew, it means permanent retreat. For Fergie, it means silence rather than speeches. And for the institution, it means a willingness to sacrifice family comfort for public legitimacy. To some, this is ruthless. To others, it is necessary. Reform is never painless, one historian observed. But without it, monarchy risks becoming not a symbol of service, but a shelter for scandal. So the Yorks stand at the crossroads, not of their own choosing perhaps, but of history's. Their presence now threatens to undermine the change agenda before it begins. And for William, the decision is unavoidable. Family or future? Compassion or credibility? Tradition or reform? The answer, as insiders increasingly admit, is already being written. Quietly, coldly, and inexorably, the Yorks are being moved out of the picture. Not expelled outright, but erased from the frame. And in that erasure lies the proof that William's crown will not be a sanctuary for every royal name. It will be, if his agenda holds, a monarchy sharpened by accountability, whatever the cost to blood ties. If Andrew and Fergie represent the monarchy's past scandals, Queen Camilla embodies its present paradox. She is the Queen Consort, the second most visible figure of the crown. Her power rests not on political authority, but on ritual, the pageantry, the robes, the processions that have defined royal life for centuries. And yet, insiders suggest it is precisely this pageantry that William is preparing to challenge. At first glance, the conflict is subtle. The heir has not openly criticized ceremonial life, but his repeated use of one phrase, fit for purpose, has sent a chill through the gilded corridors. Tradition, he says, matters. But it must serve. It must mean something. It must not become theatre for its own sake. Sources at Kensington Palace describe a growing tension. William favours leaner ceremonies, stripped of excess, emphasising impact over indulgence. Camilla, by contrast, is said to value the grandeur. She has lived through the years when public hostility threatened to erase her place in the family. Pageantry, for her, is legitimacy. It transforms the woman once scorned as the other woman into a crowned queen. The difference in outlook could not be sharper. Camilla's instinct is that the monarchy must dazzle to survive, one insider explained. William's instinct is that it must deliver. That divide is now shaping decisions on everything from coronation rehearsals to state banquets. Observers note that William's approach reflects generational pressure. The public, particularly younger voters, are less interested in velvet robes than in social results. Housing projects, mental health campaigns, environmental initiatives, these are the touchstones of modern legitimacy. By cutting back the spectacle, William signals that the monarchy is no longer a stage show but a service. But Camilla resists. She has fought too long to stand in the center of ceremonial life to see it diminished. Critics argue that her influence encourages lavish displays at a time when the country faces economic strain. Supporters counter that pageantry is part of Britain's global brand, a soft power that should not be abandoned. The clash is not yet open. There are no public quarrels, no formal disagreements. But the signs are there. Aides describe quiet debates over wardrobe choices, guest lists, processions. One phrase has become emblematic of William's side: less velvet, more value. It has already circulated within palace offices, half in jest, half in warning. Experts warn that this collision could shape the monarchy's image for decades. Camilla's model is spectacle monarchy, said one royal historian. William's model is service monarchy. The two are not easily reconciled. At some point, decisions will have to be made about which path dominates. The implications are wider than Camilla herself. A leaner ceremonial life means fewer roles for minor royals. It means less space for lavish rituals that once justified entire departments of courtiers. It means a monarchy that risks losing some of its mystique, even as it gains relevance. For William, that is a price worth paying. For Camilla, it is a personal threat. She built her redemption on the stage of monarchy, one commentator observed. If the stage shrinks, so does her role. Insiders suggest the king is caught between them. Charles, himself a man of tradition, is said to lean toward Camilla's view, valuing pageantry as continuity. But he also recognizes his son's growing influence and the urgency of adaptation. As his health forces him to delegate more, William's philosophy is already shaping palace planning. There is also a symbolic dimension. Where Camilla represents a monarchy bound to the past, survival through spectacle, William represents a monarchy looking ahead, stripped down, disciplined, measured in outcomes. The conflict, though quiet, mirrors the struggle between memory and future. And yet, both know the stakes. Pageantry dazzles, reform reassures. Without spectacle, the monarchy risks blending into ordinary politics. Without reform, it risks collapse under scrutiny. Balancing the two has always been the Crown's challenge, but rarely has the tension been embodied so starkly in two people standing side by side. For now, the smiles at public events conceal the divide, but observers say it is only a matter of time before choices become visible. How grand will future ceremonies be? How much velvet will remain? And how far will William push the doctrine of value over velvet against his stepmother's instincts? The answers will determine not only Camilla's role, but the monarchy's entire image, a stage of splendor or a service of restraint. For William, reform is survival. For Camilla, ritual is redemption. And between them, the monarchy waits, caught between velvet and value. At the heart of William's vision lies a name that still defines the monarchy: Diana. The memory of his mother, her compassion, her vulnerability, her tragedy, shadows every step he takes. And in Windsor, as he spoke of his children and their future, it was Diana's legacy that rang loudest. He recalled the teas at his grandmother's table, the warmth of a home that felt safe. But those memories sit alongside the stark images of a childhood lived under siege. Paparazzi chasing cars, headlines dissecting family conflict, grief played out before the world. William has vowed his children will never endure the same. Insiders describe a document quietly drafted at Kensington Palace, a family media code. Its principle is simple: appear when there is purpose, disappear when there is none. No exploitation of childhood milestones, no selling of private moments, no blurring of family and brand. It is, in effect, the opposite of Harry and Meghan's California model. One brother shields, the other shares. One turns privacy into protection, the other into content. Experts say this is more than sibling contrast. It is the monarchy redefining itself. William is building a firewall around his children, said one royal analyst. That firewall is the monarchy's survival strategy. If the next generation is protected, the institution can endure. The comparison with Diana is unavoidable. She too tried to shield her sons, but found herself overwhelmed by the glare. William is determined not to repeat her fate. Vulnerability, yes, but only on his terms. Compassion, yes, but never at the cost of control. In this, Princess Anne provides the model. Work without spectacle, presence without performance. William has absorbed the lesson. Duty as substance, not theatre. And in Windsor, raising George, Charlotte and Louis under what he calls a forever home, he sets the tone, legacy preserved, but future redefined. The monarchy, then, faces a crossroads. One path is indulgence, scandal, spectacle, endless drama. That is the path of Andrew, of Fergie, of Harry and Meghan. The other is accountability, discipline, restraint, reform. That is William's path. And the stakes are nothing less than survival. A crown that excuses everything will stand for nothing, William is reported to have said. In those words lies the choice before the monarchy itself. So tonight, as Windsor whispers with memories of Diana and the next generation grows behind guarded gates, the future of the monarchy is being written. Less velvet, more value. Continuity, but with accountability. A throne that no longer dazzles merely to survive, but serves to endure. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel, share your thoughts, and join us as we continue to follow this unfolding story. Because this is only the beginning. And the monarchy, as we know it, will never be the same again.